I'm here in Medjugorje and I'm with, what's your name?
Sean Conroy.
Where are you from, John?
I'm from Galway.
Galway, Ireland.
Yes.
And how many times have you been in Medjugorje?
Well, I'd say it is over the 100 anyway.
Over 100 times.
Yeah.
Wow. And when did you hear the first time about Medjugorje and what did you think at the time when you heard about the story?
I got drawn to it the moment I heard about it. And it was, as I would say, that it was people that showed the video. They had been here. They were the first people, I'd say, in Ireland. And they had a showing of the video when they came back. They were from Dublin. And they came to my hometown of Ballinasloe. The next thing, got so engrossed in this, I said, I have to go there. So I'd already been in that year, being Rome, Assisi and San Giovanni. I used to always bring groups there for years. And I came on the first official flight here from Ireland in '87. It was actually, we had to come a long way around from Dublin, Zurich and Switzerland. Stayed overnight, came on to Zagreb, stayed overnight in Banja Luka. Came in the following day, and the moment I just arrived, the apparition was to start. And I got such a sensational feeling then I never experienced in my lifetime. And ever since that, I've been always drawn here. I've done about 10 Christmases after another here, and I come usually 2 and 3 times a year.
Can you describe that sensation when you came and you were at the visionaries?
But as you might say, the sensation was, I could never describe the feeling I got when we got off the coach outside the St. James's Church. I felt in a different place altogether. So I was really drawn to that. And then coming the Christmas times, I used to be in the visionaries' home at Christmas, because it was always very quiet here. And Visco was always very special to me, because you met these people. As you know, at Christmas time there wasn't many people here. And they'd invite you to have something. Everything was, you could walk into a house a few days before the Christmas and they were making their cakes. I remember Maria, the visionary, they'd be offering you this. And of course, the biggest thing that I would detest altogether was the Turkish coffee, because it was like tar. So that sent me to take a bit. But it was such an extraordinary event then, the feeling and the camaraderie that was in the parish that time. I remember when the people noticed me here in the parish, coming when the grape season be over, they'd come out in bundles of grapes. I could arrive that much grapes going down to the church. I stayed up with a lovely family, the Vasil family, up near the hill of the Big Cross. Yosa Tunen, because there's so many Vasil country up there. And I was blessed to go into that house for the simple reason they were very prayerful. The prayers are said in the evening, at dinner time there, in the morning and everything. And everybody joined around there, which was so beautiful, because that situation had actually died out in most places in Ireland at the time, you know. But I met many wonderful people in the sense here, and here back in 1987, well, I had a bad accident, which went to the courts and everything, which I would know I know that 5 or 6 months I was in plaster, right all down to here, my head, the back of my head. And the extraordinary thing about it, they set my head wrong after a week when they checked it out in the hospital, and they had to break all the plaster off again to put on, and like that when it was on first, I was just, as I'm normal, looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
But the next thing when they put it on, I was looking at the ceiling the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
So at around that time, anyway, I spent so many months, I think it was around 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, I had to wear this plaster.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing, Visca, as I said, was a great friend. There was a group going from Galway, and Mary O'Sullivan says, you should come with us because your good friend Visca was burnt in her face and hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking all along, you know, Tom, that, well, I am fit to go, you know, and all like this. Because, as I said, the thing was only just after being taken out. Everything was weak, you understand.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came, anyway, they insisted I go, and they said, we'll look after you. So I came here then, and from the early years on, Visca and I, we always exchanged correspondence, and her cousin used to translate both ways for us, because the early years it was only shake of the head, or, you know, we didn't understand each other because no one had the language much that time, but her cousin had. And out of all that, anyway, I came that time, and I know when I came here, the rumour had gone around that I was confined to a wheelchair in the family I was staying about. And it turned out, naturally enough, I was able to come.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got to, at that time, things was very, what would you call it? I came out here then during the war after that.
How was that during the war? Did you feel safe here? How was it for you at
The
that
extraordinary thing, I used to walk from Biakavici from here
Mm-hmm.
up across near the hill of the big cross where I was staying with the Basile family that time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think I'd do it to them?
Mm-hmm.
No. I just felt there was something special there, protection and whatever. And it could be pouring out the hill. And you just stand in, and as at that time there was very little houses up in the way or anywhere to stand.
Mm-hmm.
But you sort of, you felt there was somebody helping you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That was my belief anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But when I came anyway, after that, when I came over that particular time, I remember I was exchanging notes with Visca's cousin, and it turned out she hadn't seen her because nobody had seen Visca
Mm-hmm.
for 16 days or 15 days.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was asking me because they knew my face. I knew reporters. There was, when I'd go to church, I had to watch where I went because it could be a drive. They say, oh, Sean knows where she's staying and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all that anyway, I came, and like usual, and her cousin even hadn't seen her, I'll just tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave her, she'd just done the translation for me, what I want to say to her. And when I got it, she came, she gave it to me again
Mm-hmm.
to translate what Visca said. But out of that anyway, I came and hadn't seen her until the day I was going to go back. And the extraordinary thing, I got the cousin to do the translation, just saying, sorry to hear, hope she's well.
Mm-hmm.
And I came into this
is
house here.
no,
That's
wait,
what
I
I
just go to it. That's the house, the blue house next to us. Yeah?
that's the house.
Yeah.
And I met her sister Anna,
Mm-hmm.
and that time it was, as I explained to you,
Mm-hmm.
there was no word in mouth, only just shake the shoulders and the head. And I said,
No internet, nothing.
and when she said, Visca, oh, you know, she shook the head when I just mentioned her name, and I gave her the note. Out of that then, I was disappointed when I hadn't seen her. So I went up
Mm-hmm.
and to the Blue Cross, which I found a very special place.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason was I acted like a child, and I just knelt down and I said, Blessed Mother, it's your wish that I do not see Visca, and I accept her.
Mm-hmm.
Walked down anyway, lo and behold, wasn't she up in the veranda,
Mm-hmm.
shouting, that some pilgrim that was in a wheelchair, and she took it and she came down in a flight down the stairs from there, and she drove me back. And of course what I thought all the time was what the doctor said: if you slip this way or that way, that we have done our best. I had no movement in my head after the operation, so I couldn't swing my head or anything. And I'd done so many rounds of, how would I say, so many rounds of not chemotherapy, but physiotherapy. And came down, walked down to the Blue Cross, and as I said, when I couldn't believe, I stood back just opposite there, and she seen me, and she drove me back, and the first thing I thought what the doctor said to me: we have done our best, but be careful. After a while anyway, she brought, I went up the stairs, and the next thing, she said that I go to come up afterwards, and the next thing, a nun who was there stopped me and says, where are I going? And I could see a priest above vesting in the apparition room, because this was all the time calling me. And she shouted Englishly, and this nun came and translated. And between hot and trotting anyway, the nun said to me, she says, in the mess. And I got so upset, I said to her, oh, there is, it's 10 o'clock, I says, ordinary weekdays, but holidays of obligation and everything. She said 12 o'clock. You know, I was so upset about it. But anyway, she went in anyway, and Visca said to call afterwards. So I came up here, and she wasn't around, as the saying goes, and her brother, Anthony, happened to be just here, and I used to visit their home in the earlier, because as I said, there was no one here at Christmas time. And I just said to her, where's Visca? And he said, he looked at me and he says, well, said, next thing he'd think to himself, I must see him. And he asked me, and he says, where, or something like that, and I said, Irska. And the next thing, when he went up the door, he shouted, and she gave him the applause to go in. And after, so happy, left there, not thinking of anything. And before I'd done the day, it was on the Wednesday, on the Tuesday I was in with the specialist and everything in Galway, and a team of doctors. And they said I could never bend down or do manual work again. And I left here, and the fact at the time, never thinking of anything, just I'd seen her as a good friend, and I was anxious to see her because I knew how to be burned to face and hands. And out of that anyway, I left, and I had her cousin was to meet. She was looking after Irish pilgrims. She was one of the early guides. And I had to give her this letter, and she wrote whatever note she wrote anyway. She put it in a sealed envelope. And but when I went into that girl, there was a young girl who was performed the treatment in her face. And I says, I'd take no picture now. And first thing she insisted I come outside in the veranda and we take a picture there of herself. Because, how would I say, and I said I wouldn't, and she got upset then, and she asked the girl who had perfect English, never seen her before, maybe around in her teens, late teens. And she said, first thing she insisted we go outside, take the picture, because Sean used to always say, I don't like pictures inside, and I like the real person. But having said that anyway, went in and we talked and we prayed, and she asked me about the Northern Ireland situation and how things were there. And I just told them as things were. But having done all that anyway, I left. And I went down, I had an appointment with Father Slavko, the Lord to mercy him, who was a great friend. And I'd have to say a personal friend. And he was walking back and over, and he says, where have you been? And of course, I used to always say when I'd want to see him for the magazine in Ireland, the Medjugorje Herald, which he always contributed, I'd get the stuff even from Visca, the old photographs, because that time there was no modern communications, as you understand, the early year. But Father Slavko always had something for us, and he came to Ireland. I invited him to Ireland. He came in 85, it was October, I think, 85. Father Slavko came. First ever to leave, and he always came back in the anniversary time of his trip, and he said it was the most important trip in his lifetime. And I said,
to Ireland, yeah?
to come to Ireland, because he was the first outside of Medjugorje, and the communist regime at the time, they were patrolling around the church and everything like that, and I couldn't. Father Thomas Bervan was the PP, and I was going to see Father Slavko that night to ask him about coming and everything, and he says, I cannot stand talking to you here, because the first thing, so we had to come walking around the church. He says, to be no problem with you, he says, or with me, he says, but he says, when you go, he says, there could be some of these guys that question you up about what you're here and what was the situation about. So out of all that, anyway, Father Slavko came and met him in Dublin, and there was a young priest that time that was with me that went into to his Father Slavko's actually official bedroom and everything. The apparition was that in the old house. Do you know where you go up the stairs now?
Yeah, the parish house.
The parish house,
Yeah.
that time,
Yeah.
and it was in his room. It was always held. So went up there and we talked to him, and Sister Yanya Boris, she was in America sometime, and she was the only one that really had English, 100% English, and she arranged that we'd go up, and he says, I don't know, and of course the relationship with the bishop wasn't so great at the time, and fathers didn't like to do that, and Sister Yanya just says, people has come from a country who wants you to go, and you go, and don't be worrying about the bishop. So I came, and in the town of Ballinasloe, where I live outside, there was a Medjugorje weekend, and all accommodation was free, hotels, in what we call the B&Bs, the colleges opened up for the youth to go in and sleep in bugs and everything there like that. And it was a big, it was never seen in Ireland before. So I got a wonderful reception for a long weekend there. But he always referred to that statement, you ever meet me, he used to, when he'd come back in the anniversary, he used to always say, it was the most important trip in my lifetime, because he came as civious, because he had to do that. When he was leaving, you know, there'd be a line of the communistic regime, both sides of the church. They all dressed up to kill, you wouldn't know who they were, until you'd be told, like, you know. But having said all that, and I went home after the healing here, never knew a bit about it. As I said, I just thought myself that I have, what would I say, I was so happy to see my friend. You know, the way, especially when she had been hurt. And I went home, never knew. And it was only because the day before that, as I said, the day before the week I came out was on a Tuesday. They always come on Wednesdays, the flight. And the team of doctors was there under the Polish man, a lovely doctor. He was the head man, and he said, I told him where I was going, because I knew he was a staunch Catholic, because when John Paul II came to Ireland for the youth thing in Ireland, he dined with John Paul, and I just said to him that it's important that we more or less think about all these things when it comes to. But having said all that, anyway, the experience I had after that, it was only 2 days when I was home. I got the desire to go to my local doctor. The next thing I went again, and he just said to me, it was on the Friday, and he says, well, he says, I was on a search, you know, they hadn't worked for so many months, and you go. So I said I want to go back on the Monday. And it was only, as you know, the 10 days previous to that I got the ultimatum. What I was doing that day was doing a concrete floor, and I stooped down all day. Of course, I was always a doubting Thomas since I said, I won't work. But from that very day to this day, I never got a pain or ache in my body. And I didn't realize it. I don't know what it was. I never realized it leaving here, and when I left, it was only at home and I could feel the vision of the experience with Visca. And out of that, I'm coming here in Thanksgiving to our Blessed Mother.
That's when she came down and hugged you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. And of course, doubting Thomas, I thought, oh, what the doctor said, if you fall back anything, you're in trouble.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened, thanks.
Healing.
That's a fact now. But I never dreamt of that. As I said, all along was the fact that my friend Visca was burned in her face and hands. That's the reason I came here. And as I said, the most important part that, when just all said and done, is when I expressed my knees as a young fella to say to Our Lady, it's your will, I do not accept Visca. It was my will all the time. I wanted. And yet Our Lady granted that. The moment I submitted that above the Blue Cross, she was standing out.
It was granted. She stood there. You asked and you received. That's what God said.
I did. So
unbelievable. And what happened? 13 days she was in the house, not well, or because people asked
nobody knew where she was. There was people following me around. I knew a few reporters here. They used to always come that I was friendly with her. And I'd have to go different ways across from the church or the field if I was coming here, because they all want to know where she was, you know. But as the saying goes.
And that's tough for a child. She was young at the time. That so many people searched for her, no?
Oh, there is. Oh, it's just true. But,
you could get disbalanced, but the 6 visionaries, you see them now, all balanced, sane people. Nothing to reproach them.
Oh no. Oh, that's the simplicity of them.
Exactly, the simplicity.
I have always said that now, and as I said, I knew when I used to come at Christmas time, Maria, I always wanted to take a picture of Maria for the magazine at the time that it was coming out from Galway, the Medjugorje Hill, and the next thing. When Maria, I'd be up opposite a house up here, just across Maria, to take a picture, and she'd do this. It was a question not to do. Next thing she came with Father Slavko to Galway, and when she seen the magazine, because Father had an article on it, and she apologised for all the times, she stopped me from taking the picture.
Exactly, very humble, kind, simple people.
Oh, very, 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 very simple people.
And so you came over 100 times back. You brought a lot of people.
Well, there was a man here who was here in the house I was staying with. He was reckoning it up the last time that he was counting all the times I came, and he was reckoning it up to
what did you see in people change? You brought a lot of groups here. You saw a lot of people coming and going.
An awful lot came from Ireland. I'd say that they were one of the biggest for the size of the country, because a lady gave a special to Father Slavko when he came to Ireland that time, for the appeared in Ireland, to tell them I love them and to pray, you know, which was sort of important. But my whole belief is, Tom, I thank God every day I get up, and so many of my friends who come to me, that we have Medjugorje in our life to support us, because there's so much falling away and different things, what people's anti-religion and everything like that. Thanks be to God, Our Lady is here with us.
To regain strength, to charge the battery.
Yes.
No? Catholic camaraderie, to meet each other, talk, go together to adoration.
Oh, sure, I know.
And bring people here.
Oh, yes. Very good. Very, very special.
You pray the rosary every day?
There's one extraordinary thing about the rosary. Brought a few friends in the very early years to hear, and herself and her grandma, I think his latter was her grandma as well, and they were sitting here doing, it was all tobacco fields right up to the gable of the church, and they were putting the leaves as tobacco there, and she came talking to us, and there was two more. I know there was two, if not three. There was one young fella in it anyway, and the next thing, the interpreter came over, and she says, "Visca's talking to you." And I said, what's she telling me? To say the rosary 3 times a day, first thing in the morning, again during the day, and the last thing at night. And I said to the interpreter, "Will you mind telling her I don't have time to bless myself in the morning, I'm running to get a connection to go to work." And the next thing, this young fellow went down, he met one of our priests in the group, and you know what he said to the priest? "Sean got an awful penance today." And of course the priest was in the situation that he says, how do you mean that? No priest tells what penance that anybody gives. So I said, "Oh, it was Visca to give him the penance, they says the rosary 3 times a day." With a big laugh about it. And it just shows you, all the laughing was over and went home. And when I was to set the clock for going to work in the morning, I set it a half an hour earlier. It just, I could materialise and having the vision, and she looking at me saying, "It'll be good for you." And thanks be to God, I'd say 99% I've achieved that from that very time to this day.
3 rosaries a day.
Yeah.
And what changed in your life?
Well, I'm sort of grateful for the life I had led, in the sense that, and more so, I live in my own. And as I said, I was with the visionaries when they came to Ireland and round here and there. But it is not all that, it's something about the simplicity of them. A lot of people think they might see some of them driving a flash car or something. Sure, I said, if you wanted to see some people in Ireland, they'd be driving a flash car, and do you know what I mean? You can't judge them by that, you know. But that's the story anyway, mine in Medjugorje, and I.
Unbelievable. And what would you tell people? You see, Medjugorje, confession is very important. What would you tell people? Why not to be scared to go to confession? And what is the beauty of confession?
This is the sad thing about it. You have so many people don't go because it's not in their parishes in Ireland now. They have to go to a religious order or someplace. And I noticed that myself, that I'd have to go maybe 30 or 40 kilometres to get confession, because there's no one near you, no one in your parishes, because the shortage of priests. No, for shortage, terrible shortage, and you feel it, like, you know. But there's a lot of people that got healed out here in Medjugorje in a lot of ways, through confession, and you name it. They got, as the saying goes, very special now, and because the example is here when you come. And that is the important part of it. As I said, you see the example of it here, and it puts people thinking when they go home, you know,
Yes, absolutely what you say. They see a good, I call it a prototype Catholic parish with priests, nuns, all locations, families.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We have to be very thankful
Yeah.
to us that has firm belief that we have Medjugorje,
Yeah.
because it might be bringing up a certain percentage better after every trip when they come here.
Yeah.
Because, as I said, we hadn't Medjugorje to look forward to, and now we get some of the. I do often look at your results on YouTube and different things like that. Your stories you'd have there, various people, like, you know, which is good because it shows attitude people in different countries and what it means to them, do you know? So that's my story anyway, and I only hope that.
Did a lot of change? I mean, you came 87 the first time.
Yeah.
We are 2024.
No, 84 I came the first.
You came 84. No,
Yeah.
I understood 87. Now I understand
No.
that Father Slavko left to Ireland 85. Now I understand.
That's right.
Good. To clarify, that was one of my questions also.
No,
So
that
84.
84, and we
after
came
the
for
start.
we came for the 8th of December in 84. It was actually one of the first, and I always think of it. We're staying here. We stayed in a small. It was only a newly built small hotel, one story. Like, it was a lovely Spanish one. And I said to myself when I met Sister Jan who came in here, I says, we should be in Our Lady's parish. We're missing so much to be coming in Stolats now. I know, you know. So we used to come in, and when you'd leave after the night, you go home. You had your meal then after that. And the next day I went to Sister Jan and I says, "Is there any hope?" And Sister Jan says, there was a young priest with me, and Sister Jan said to me, "You come tomorrow night, I'll have room." And Joseph Vasil Tunen, who was the local postman here at the time, and he had some English because he worked in Germany, and big old Mercedes, and he had it packed, and he landed me about at his house. At that time the people were so good, they'd give their own beds and they'd go out and sleep where some of the animals was that had done up the. That's the fact. Oh, they were so wonderful now, so wonderful at the time. Simplicity, and their own food was so lovely. So, and the cow was the most important animal, and sometimes they might have 2 cows at the time. It was very interesting. And what I admire about Medjugorje here, from day one, all the pets that I use, there was never anything sold or anything. The pets exist across all the fields, because I love doing the fields. And to this day, the same as when I came at that time. So the respected and retreat. A lot of people now, when they got pilgrims, they felt very upset because they were tied so much doing the cooking at home and all this for the, you know, they found it very hard, you know. So, but however, we can't complain.
And the spirit is still the same now, 24?
Oh, it is.
It is the same spirit.
For
Even
me,
if there's a lot of hotel shops now, people complain, so many hotels, so many shops.
but you knew about the man that predicted here, did you? About an oldest man, I can't think of it often, but you should ask some of the, he predicted, he died in 70, no, he died in when I was in some, it was 72 years before the apparition, and he predicted it all here, about the hotels, about the mountain, gospel being up there, and the man couldn't read or write. But
That must have been 79, 2 years before, 79.
You just, if you get an opportunity to get some local person or a guide who would have the facts, I had the facts now on paper, but I don't want to say it. I hadn't, it wouldn't, because but if,
And you can find it, people can search on the internet.
some of the local people will have that from you now, because an ordinary pilgrim here wouldn't have the facts. But people told me, the Lord Mercy Marinka, the mechanic as he used to be called, he was with the visionaries in the early days, very close friend, and he explained me before it ever appeared in print and anything how that man predicted everything, and they all knew him and wasn't able to read or write. And of course he says everyone sort of left and everything, but it all came through.
Unbelievable, yeah. That's, we are here 2024, and you see all the pilgrims passing by.
Yes.
At the time there weren't so many, I guess, no?
And it is a known fact that Our Lady says that when pilgrims come like that, to be respected, not to over, charge them or anything like that. Sort of give that commitment from the people that, But I thought it was extraordinary, that particular man, to predict all that now.
In this little village, nowhere land, you could say.
He talked about big homes, hotels. He was able to tell them all that. So that man had the vision. That's why it's an important message to get,
And what would you tell people why come to Medjugorje one time?
Huh?
What would you tell people why come to Medjugorje one time?
Well, I'd tell you that anyone that has discovered Medjugorje, they got the greatest gift to back them in their own faith, to strengthen their own faith, and to realize that Jesus and Mary is looking after us every day. That's what it's all about. That's it.
Thank you for that beautiful interview.